After 2 years of empty airports, holiday travel is back and airfares are surging. Is this the new normal? Wear a mask and sanitize your hands are just two of the many do's and don'ts for tourists going to Japan. And a divorce battle over a $1 million wedding gift. Who wins and who loses? Good evening, you're watching The Big Story with me, Haryanto Diman. Subscribe to the Straits Times channel so you will not miss a single episode. Well, if you're planning a holiday soon, be prepared to pay more, especially for flights. The days of cheap airfares are well and truly over, no thanks to the pandemic. Singapore reopened its borders to all fully vaccinated travellers on April 1st. And according to figures by the Mastercard Economics Institute, the cost of flying from Singapore that month was on average 27% higher in April than in 2019. And when it comes to international passenger numbers, Asia-Pacific Airlines saw a 272.9% jump in April compared with a year ago. A total of 4.8 million people got on planes as border restrictions loosened. I'm happy to now welcome Subhas Menon. Now he's based in Singapore. He's the Director General of the Association of Asia-Pacific Airlines. Welcome to the show, Subhas. Demand driven by so-called revenge travel is essentially back to pre-pandemic levels. But why are airlines finding it hard to catch up with that escalation in demand?
Well, Haryanto, demand actually has not recovered to pre-pandemic levels yet. But it looks like it's headed in that direction because, if you really look at it, pre-pandemic, there were close to 4.5 billion travelers, so we are still quite a ways off. In the Asia Pacific, we are seeing travel rebound to about 15 to 20% as of the end of April. In other regions, we are seeing 60, maybe 65%. So I think safely we can say that the demand has rebounded to about 60% worldwide to 2019 levels. So we still have a ways to go. There are a lot of factors, that is affecting the current supply of flights. Of course, demand is picking up faster than was anticipated. And there is a time lag between demand and supply, because bringing the supply back to meet the demand takes a bit more time. So governments will have to make sure that they take away all the inhibitors to travel, including testing. Still, some places are requiring testing requirements. And generally, travelers tend to go where there is an ease of travel, where the travel requirements are similar to what it was to pre-COVID. So not all the destinations are open, and therefore there is a convergence of demand to those places where the borders have reopened. At the same time, while airlines can do their best to bring back staff resources, the airports and handling agents will also have to do the same. You must understand, with 2 years of grounding of the airline industry, many aviation workers have actually left the sector, because they couldn't be sitting around doing nothing and not earning an income for very long periods of time. And also over the past 2 years, there have been stop-starts, to the recovery process. Governments announced reopening in October last year, but with the surge in Omicron, they again shut their borders again. So airlines have been burnt a few times. So I think they are also playing a bit of a look and see, before they bring back the entire supply that is demanded in terms of the growth in travelers' propensity to travel.
Given what you've just mentioned, Subhas, do all those point to why air ticket prices are going up?
Yes, indeed, because prices are always a function of demand and supply. So demand has, come back very quickly. I would say faster than expected. Whereas, it takes a bit of time to crank up supply. As you know, in Singapore, Terminal 2 was just partially open on the 29th of May, and Terminal 4 is yet to be opened. So airport capacity has also got a part to play. And then on top of that is resources, not just airline resources, but also airport resources, handling agent resources. These have all got to be cranked up, and the feeling is that a lot of people have left the sector, as a result of 2 years of hibernation. So we need to bring them back, and we need to bring back the allure of the aviation industry. Bring the sexy back, as they say, so that supply can definitely match demand. It takes a bit of time. It's not as easy as other modes of transport, because we also have to make sure of safety issues. Sustainability is also a concern, because during the process, airlines have also grounded many of their more expensive aircraft, and in fact reverted to leaner and more sustainable aircraft. So they need to also make sure that there is enough aircraft, to meet the demand.
And in terms of passenger numbers, do you reckon the APAC airlines would be able to return to their pre-pandemic levels without China, which of course hasn't opened its international borders yet?
I think the industry is taking the approach that no point in crying over spilled milk. I mean, that's the policy that the governments of Greater China are pursuing, and they've made it very clear that until 2023, until there are zero COVID cases in their territories, they're not going to reopen borders. But meanwhile, a vast number of Asia-Pacific governments have already opened up their borders as of May 2022. So I think they are benefiting from this. The tourism industry, the air travel industry is benefiting from this, because their governments have gone ahead and reopened their borders. I wouldn't say that we'll get back to 2019 levels in 2022. There'll be quite a tall order without Greater China, but we can be optimistic about reaching maybe about 75% of 2019 levels. But rather than focusing on the 2019 levels, we should look at the ease of travel and the health of the industry. And perhaps, with the growth in demand and the industry being able to meet the so-called revenge travel, as you put it, I think, we can go back to how it was for air travel pre-COVID.
Subhas, just one final note from me. You talked about achieving 75% of pre-pandemic levels or levels of 2019. Where do you think that 75% is going to come from then?
Well, I mean, China is a very big market, but so too are India and Indonesia, Philippines. These are also fairly large markets. And India is open, completely open, no quarantine, no testing requirements. Indonesia, of course, has already opened several of their markets, and rest of them will be completely open in a few weeks' time. And also, the Philippines is also open. Vietnam is open. So they would be able to pick up not all the slack, but at least some of the slack that we are seeing in China.
Subhas, thank you for the insights. Subhas Menon, Director General of the Association of Asia-Pacific Airlines. Tourists on package tours heading to Japan from this Friday, June 10th, will need to pay close attention to its COVID-19 rules. A set of guidelines issued to tour operators highlights, quote, new travel etiquette for visitors. Well, it recommends that tourists check their body temperature and sanitize their hands upon check-in at their accommodation, and to always refrain from talking when using public baths. When on public transport, tourists should wear masks and try to travel outside of peak times. Again, they should refrain from talking when on trains and buses. Another tip from the authorities, whenever you're out sightseeing or shopping, tourists should maintain physical distance even when outside and sanitize their hands prior to and after touching products like souvenirs in shops. Finally, when eating and drinking, tourists must sanitize their hands before entering cafes, bars and restaurants. They should also portion out servings in advance when sharing food. Anyone who doesn't abide by the rules may be sent home. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson surviving a vote of confidence triggered by his own lawmakers. And although the 59% which win sees Mr. Johnson remain in office, critics say the 148 Conservative Party MPs who voted against him show that his authority has weakened. The vote share is also lower than the 63% former PM Theresa May got in 2018, 6 months before she resigned over a Brexit deadlock.
So, well, I think this is a very good result for politics and for the country. I do. Just in this sense, I think it's a convincing result, a decisive result, and what it means is that as a government, we can move on and focus on the stuff that I think really matters to people.
Sorry, it's a decisive result.
Let me
and your allies wanted her to go straight away. How is this different?
Look,
how can you possibly continue?
This is I've got a far bigger mandate from my own parliamentary colleagues, for instance, than I had in 2019. And what this gives us is the opportunity to put behind us all the stuff that I know the media have quite properly wanted to focus on for a very long time, and to do our job, which is to focus on the stuff that I think the public actually want us to be talking about, which is what we are doing to help the people in this country and all the things we're doing to take this country forward.
The supply of private homes under the government land sales program for the second half of this year has been raised by 25.8% to 3,505 units. This in response to land-hungry developers, resilient demand and declining unsold inventory. In all, there are 14 sites, 6 confirmed list sites and 8 reserve list sites. And among them is the first plum site in Marina Gardens Lane in Marina South Precinct. A new report released at this week's Ecosperity Conference in Singapore identifies 5 key areas that can dramatically reduce Southeast Asia's carbon emissions. 3 are renewable energy, sustainable farming and electric vehicles. And investment opportunities in these can account for 60% of carbon emission reductions for the region to reach net zero by mid-century. The other 2 areas are forest conservation and having a sustainable built environment. High net worth divorce cases are often more complicated than your typical divorces. Case in point, when a father handed over a red packet containing a check for $1 million to his son during the tea ceremony on his wedding day. Was it meant for him only or for both him and his new wife? Yes, you heard that right, a $1 million red packet. Well, I guess I've not been giving enough to my married friends. Now, when the couple divorced 3 years later, this $1 million became the centerpiece of their fight. Let's discuss this rather complex case with Invest editor Tan Ooi Boon. Ooi Boon, how did the court decide whether the $1 million was a gift to both parties or to the groom only?
You know something, Yan, life is sometimes stranger than fiction because you would think that such cases only happen in the movies. But the lesson here is always this. You need to know your rights well so that you can never go wrong. Of course, no one plans for divorce at the start of a marriage. In this case, the father gave his son a $1 million hongbao during the customary tea ceremony. When things go wrong 3 years later, the big question then becomes, is that $1 million hongbao yours alone or ours? The husband said naturally it was his, because the wife already got 20,000 worth of jewelry at the tea ceremony. Not only that, she was given a 270,000 BMW car and another 100,000 worth of jewelry before the wedding. But Singapore's highest court ruled that that $1 million hongbao was a gift for the couple and not just for the husband. The court noted that if the father had wanted to give the money to the son only, He could have done so way before the wedding. Instead, he chose to do it during the customary tea ceremony, which usually symbolizes the union of a newlywed couple. Hence, any gift that is given on such occasions will be treated as a gift to both husband and the wife.
Ooi Boon, any lessons we can learn from this court ruling?
Well, even if they're feeling generous, you should take note of the timing of the gift. So parents who want to give expensive gifts to their children should only do so in a way before the wedding and where possible, not in the presence of their spouses, so that the motive behind the gift is clear. As it is, the law often treats any properties that are acquired during a marriage as matrimonial assets. So married couples should take note that any income made or gift given during their marriage are usually treated as part of the common pool that will be shared by both of them. That said, while it is important to have a good financial plan when couples get married, the best investment that anyone can make is to ensure that the marriage will last. After all, happily married old couples will tell you that their long-lasting relationship is actually more valuable than all the assets that they can ever own.
Great advice there, Ooi Boon. Time and timing are vital indeed. Invest editor Tan Ooi Boon. If you've enjoyed Ooi Boon's advice as much as we have, you can now find it all in one place. His new book, Always Have Enough Money, is out now. Grab a copy of it at bookstores, stbooks.sg, or as an ebook on Amazon Kindle. As always, visit straitstimes.com for more news and our YouTube channel for more videos. Subscribe by hitting the red button below. I'm Haryanto Diman. See you tomorrow on The Big Story.